So one thing Dan said, you said that DOGE is defining the administration to a greater extent than anyone thought. And therefore, to the extent DOGE is not handled well in terms of PR, it's a potential problem. We don't see any public indication that Musk is being guided by the White House communications team about what to say. Maybe it's happening behind the scenes. So here's a clip from last night, the focus group we did with some Gen Zers talking about Musk and DOGE. Play 104, please. Okay, super interesting. Okay, super interesting. I'll say one or two words. Tell me, and noun, adjective, whatever you want. One or two words. When you think Elon Musk, what do you think? Antonio.
I mean, if I had to break it down, probably three would come up, which would
Yeah.
be impulsive, reckless, and unqualified.
All right. Andrea, one or two or three words. When you think
Um,
of Elon Musk, what do you think about?
Innovative and ambitious.
Okay. Cassandra?
I'm struggling to think of one. I think that ambitious is a good one, but I don't super mean it in a positive way when we're
Mhm.
talking about this.
Okay. Steffi?
I would say entrepreneur,
Hmm.
but at the same time also kind of like too spread out.
Okay. Evan?
So Andrea took mine, but innovative and
Yeah.
just creative.
Yeah. So you watch the whole focus group on our YouTube channel. They had mixed feelings about him, but a lot of them felt he was unqualified for what he's doing. So, Sean, if you were the White House press secretary, just hypothetically, would you say to the president, hey, we need to work on Musk's image? We talked about the Hannity interview being an attempt to kind of rehab that, but do they need to spend more time making Musk more popular if he's going to be so front and center?
In a perfect world, I would say sure, have him do some sit downs, a la what he did. But two things that I think are important. Number one, Elon Musk is not the kind of guy. I mean, really successful people, in my experience, don't tend to sit down and say, "I want to hear what you have to think about my image." They became successful largely, and especially disruptor billionaire types like that. I've noticed this over the last decade. There's a trait among them, which is for most of their life they were told no, this will never work, and it's because of that ethos of who they are that they're not going to be the soft sell kind of guy that sits down. That's usually like the second generation of wealth. So that's number one. Number two is there's a difference in these polls where I get it that like a lot of the folks, maybe some independents and definitely folks on the left don't like it. But where the White House takes comfort is the base loves this stuff. And that's primarily what they really care about. So I don't, sure, could you do one or two more interviews? Maybe. But at the end of the day, it's also like, you don't know what you're going to get. I mean, Elon's not the kind of guy that says, hey, let's murder board this and go over the talking points. He's the kind of guy that says, what time's the interview start? And I'm going to sit down.
But that's the problem. I mean, Elon is an innovator. Elon is a businessman. He does have a little bit of a God complex, which is what most super successful people have. I mean, and I even wrote yesterday, like, it's the Uber playbook, right? Which is like, we'll bust some laws and rules. But like, so what? Because the end product, cutting spending, right, is popular. And I think what you're beginning to see is there does, and I've thought, because the early polls showed he was really popular, that like maybe the country is willing to be okay with this. It seems they're not, that people don't associate him as an expert in this, and they don't like how he's going about it. And again, to me, the problem becomes, I agree with you, Sean, the base loves it. And that is important because the base will scare the moderates. If we cross the base, we have a problem. But what starts to happen is when you see independents running 15 points against something and Democrats unified, anyone who's coming up is going to start to say, I have a problem. And if this hardens and Musk keeps doing this through the end of the year, it starts to look like Musk is running the government. And that is not good for Trump.
Dan, you know this from your background, Mark, obviously, and I'll just say that like the White House, it doesn't live in a vacuum. They're getting
I got
data.
it.
No. I know. I'm saying this for the folks that like, I know there's a bunch of public polls that come out, right? The White House is privy to a lot of private polling and data and analytics and things like this. They are getting told this is working, this isn't working, this is strong, this is weak, this is good. So it's not like, I guess my point in all this is they're not sitting there in a vacuum going, gosh, it's good that we just figured out this. They know what's working, what's not. And of all people, Elon is a very data analytics driven guy. And that is something that I think they could show him and say, Hey, look, they love it. You watched his tweet this morning and he said he started to compliment federal workers, right? So there's no question in my mind that Elon's initial attack, I should say, on federal workers, like they're all bad and all evil and USAID sucks and all this stuff, clearly wasn't going over well with everybody, right? And so he has clearly started to soften that by saying, not all people are bad. In fact, some of these guys are really good. And I mean, like, that's clearly a sign that some of this data is coming through.